Okay, it's 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, August 8th. This is a meeting of the City of Sandy Oaks, regular meeting of the City Council, which is being held today, Thursday, August 8th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. at Sandy Oaks City Hall, located at 4451 Hickory Haven, Sandy Oaks, Texas 78112, for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. All agenda items are subject to action. Ms. Shelton, can we get a quorum call, please?
Yes. Alderman Tremblay.
Here.
Alderman Berkey.
Here.
Alderman Walker.
Here.
Alderman Thomasini.
Here.
Alderman Garcia.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 on the agenda is citizens to be heard. This item allows the public to address the City Council on issues affecting the community and the city. Please note that the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the City Council from responding, commenting, or discussing items or topics during this portion of the meeting that are not included on the agenda. This item will be open for up to 30 minutes with 3 minutes to each speaker. If there are more than 10 speakers, each will be given 2 minutes. Citizens may opt to provide written rather than oral testimony, but the city's rules do not allow for citizens to borrow time from another person signed up to speak. We have 3 people signed up. First up is Karen Mendiola Tanguma.
Hello, good evening. I would like to just start by thanking you. No, I'm good. Can you hear me? Yes. I would like to thank Ken Roberts for sharing his wealth of knowledge as a professional, and I see we have something on the agenda, so thank you for your time. I know our community is still evolving, and there is a lot of norming to do, so thank you so much for sharing your time. I would like to kind of remind council, if somebody could put out a newsletter and let people know that we do have bonds, we do have elections, we do have all these advisory committees, let them know what's going on, and sooner the better. Election place as well. Our last election, our building was not open, and I know this, our attorney, we had a discussion about having it here, but it wasn't ready yet, so I'm hoping you consider having the election here in the city. Also, I would like to talk, I did send, I guess, universally, just my thoughts about the bond, about how I think we're putting the the cart before the horse. We haven't even had a master plan completed yet, which would help us with grants. And maybe, going to the bond first and not really investigating the grant area first might seem premature. I know I was asked, well, is there any road repair grants out there? I didn't do my homework, sorry about that, but we do have M&S who has, a grant person that could help us with that. Plus, if there are grants out there that do not apply to the road but something else, and we do get those grants, it's possible that we can move those line item monies over to the roads. Roads and animal control are like a bottomless pit. You never have enough money. I know that is true. Also, our citizens put about 30% live check to check poverty level. That would put an added burden to them. And these are the same people with the independent school district bond. When they were that bond was put on there, they said no. Now we're tapping into them again to ask them again to ask them to accept a bond. I know Mickey Ball was in charge of promoting that bond, and I just think it's too early. I think it sends the wrong message. More consideration, unless you're wanting to create jobs, or I have your list of monies that was given to you, Ms. Ball and Mrs. Ball, and the investors. I'm watching for their names to come up for bid. So I'm watching for that. I know bonds do create jobs, but I really wanted to put the people first. I know commercialism is very important and having businesses here, but to realize we did create a city with very little commercialism, commercial properties, and it's mostly residential, so it does heavily lean on that.
Time.
Is it time?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I was waving at him, sorry.
Is that time?
Oh.
No.
Maybe she'll.
Okay, Grace Alvarado. Sorry.
Of course, I'm going to speak about the
Yes.
change in the rules for citizens to be heard. I did do my homework. These are all your agendas. I looked at every single one since 2014, the inception of the city. None of them have the verbiage that you've put on today's. I did look up the ordinances. The one you're quoting today has not the verbiage that you have on it today. So obviously, you changed the rules because of the last meeting. And I understand that. You have control. But I'm sure the authorities or anyone in authority would like to know why all of a sudden it's changed. She likes to quote the rules. And of course, the rules say that the body may allow us and that they choose to do it. And it's a courtesy and we thank you. But, you know, it takes a while, right? The agendas say we can't speak. Never said we couldn't share minutes. If you're sitting here and you yield your time to me, what's wrong with that? Why are the rules changing now? You don't like what you're hearing? Let me just, instead of me going on and on, because, you know, it is very frustrating to try to work with the governing body that we elected. Let me just read to you, maybe you'll listen to the Attorney General. First, he's talking about the Opens Meeting Act. It says, and he quoted the founding father, Patrick Henry, importance of transparency in government. The liberties of people never were, nor ever will, secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them. In the Texas Open Meetings Act, he also quoted me, is it up? Yeah. Public access to the proceedings and decision-making processes of governmental entities is an essential element of a properly functioning democracy. He also speaks about the open records. It says, as the Texas Constitution states, all political power is inherent in the people. And that means a free government should work for the people, not the other way around. And he said his priorities were to encourage an open government. Such transparency provides Texans with a more complete understanding of how their government works, and, when necessary, provides them an opportunity to hold their public officials accountable. He goes on to say, Texans have a right to know how their government is spending their tax dollars and exercising the powers granted by the people. Transparency and open decision-making are fundamental principles of the Texas Public Information Act, and they are essential to ensuring continued trust and confidence in officials and our government.
Time.
I'm appealing to the council for 3 more minutes that my husband signed up. We're the only speakers here. If you'll allow me to finish.
You may continue.
Talks about the policy construction. It declares that the basis for the policy of open government. It finds that basis in the American constitutional form of representative government and the principle that government is the servant and not the master of the people. It further explains this principle in terms of the need for an informed citizenry. It says, the people, in delegating authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. There you go. How's that?
It's horrible how they treat the citizens. It's horrible that they take our time away. It's horrible.
Hey, how's it going?
Item 4, financial and budget report. The income and expenses will be reported by City Clerk Catherine Yelton, and possible discussion.
So the beginning balance as of July 1st, 2019 was $449,181.73. Checks and payments of $51,851.01. Deposits and credits of $20,128.69. We did have a couple of uncleared transactions of $115.48. Gives us an ending balance of $417,343.93.
Is there any questions or concerns from the council? If there's no questions or comments, I'll accept a motion.
I move to accept the finance report as of
Put your microphone on.
31. Oh, no. I move to accept the finance report as of July 31st, 2019.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Rufino to accept the income and expenses reported. Do we get a second?
A second.
Alderman Walker seconds. Can I, since we're recording instead of audio, I think a verbal affirmation would be in order. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. There's 2 items. One is approve minutes from the July 11th regular City Council meeting and approve the minutes from the July 25th regular City Council meeting.
Move to approve consent agenda.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Walker to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I am looking for... Let's put this speaker. Is it G? Yes. Is that? Just for question. Okay. Okay, let's move on to 6A. Discuss and/or possible action on an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, ordering a general and special election to be held November 5th, 2019 for the purpose of electing the Alderman Place 1, Alderman Place 3, Alderman Place 4, which is an unexpired term, and Alderman Place 5, and matters related to conducting the election. Okay. So one thing that has come up, we have been working diligently to try to bring the elections to City Hall. There's a challenge with that. The county is looking at an alternative approach to elections in general, which is very similar to what they do today for early voting. And what they're calling them are voting, what's the term? Voting centers, I think is what they're calling it. We won't have a final answer on that until the Commissioners Court meets on August 20th. So for now, the way our ordinance is written on Section 3, where it talks about the location, Jackie had said to put the verbiage in here that talks about or a place determined by Bear County elections. So we may not be able to have a polling location here. It will probably remain Freedom, but I don't know that for a fact. The commissioners will meet on that on the 20th.
So we can just add that then,
Add what?
add what you said to this?
No. On, this is 2019-140. Yes, you have that? Section 3, where it says the precinct and the polling place.
And the city's deadline to order the election is August 19th, the day
Which is the
before,
day
so we
before.
won't know.
So we won't know.
Until after.
Right. So we also have on here a drawing for a place on the ballot. That will be at 6 p.m. on August 19th here at this building. And applications are due by the 19th
I highlighted in case council wanted to change it. The date.
for the drawing. So the 19th is a Wednesday?
It's a Monday. That's
It's a Monday?
Yes. So an hour after the deadline would be the drawing.
Okay. And we have to have our information back to Jackie on what date?
She just said as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Typically, we've done it an hour after, because she's wanted fast. I think we have a few more days time.
Okay. Do we have any committee meetings on the 19th?
No.
It would be between those two, so it's a free date. Okay.
If you're thinking of the animal control, it's next Monday and the 25th.
So we're free on the 19th then to do that if that's acceptable. So 5 p.m. on the 19th is the deadline to turn in an application.
5 p.m.
So we're scheduling the drawing for the place on the ballot an hour later. Okay. Is that acceptable to everybody? Okay.
And there is a section to approve a joint agreement with the county. The agreement that the county provided only provides for the special election, so it just needs to be amended to include the special, or any other elections that are ordered by council tonight.
And is that in here?
I think I put the
It's attached
joint
to the bond.
election thing on another ordinance.
Oh, got it.
On the back of,
H. I think
6H. Yeah.
which is calling for a joint election.
You talking about the MOU?
Yes.
Okay.
And whatever passes, if everyone can stay behind the sign.
Did you use your microphone? I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Whatever passes. It wasn't me. Whatever passes, if everyone can stay behind the sign.
Oh, for tonight. Did y'all catch that?
Multiple signatures.
Everyone on the council needs to sign before you leave tonight. Not this one. You're talking about 141? Yes.
Yeah.
Page 6 of 141. Everybody signs on that one. So don't forget before you leave this evening. Okay, so back to this one. So, do we have a motion to approve ordinance 2019-140?
Move to approve ordinance 2019-140.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve ordinance 2019-140, which is ordering a general and special election to be held on November 5th, 2019. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Excuse me, may I interrupt? When you guys have the election, are you going to let the community know that it's going to be a freedom adventure instead of here?
It'll be on.
It'll be announced where it's going to be. We don't know where that's going to be just yet.
And how is it going to be announced?
Their notice is that we're required, the county will publish in
Are you
paper,
guys- are you guys
and there'll be
gonna
some
sending
posted at
the
City
letters
Hall.
Like you do normally, like to the residents, like a newsletter or something?
There is a newsletter that's coming out, yes.
Okay. Can we also do so that we know, arguing like we've been hearing in the past? Put a little sign at the Valero when they walk into the door so they'll know.
Okay, item 6B, discuss and or possible action on the creation of an Economic Development Corporation EDC board. I'm going to pull this. We're not going to discuss this one. Item 6C, discuss and or possible action on appointing or taking applications or nominations for the EDC board. Again, we're going to pull that one. Item 6D, discuss and or possible action on establishing a police or crime fund. Should that go first? Okay, sorry, we're going to go with 6F. Discuss and or possible action on an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, ordering a special election to submit propositions regarding the withdrawal of the City of Sandy Oaks from the Via Metropolitan Transit Authority and related taxes, and submitting propositions for approval of municipal sales and use taxes and matters related to conducting the election. So, back in 2014, there was an item on the ballot for the citizens to vote to either keep or abolish the VIA tax, which is a 0.5% sales tax. And at the time, the citizens wanted to keep it. So at the time, Alderman Tremblay and myself reached out to VIA. We had several meetings, several false starts. They had some head count changes. We didn't get anywhere with that. We did kind of bring it back up again a year or so ago. They did come out, they did some surveys. There really was not that much interest. And it, according to the state comptroller, we could not make another ballot initiative related to this topic until 5 years, and this is 5 years this year. I calculated the amount of tax that we're giving to VIA, and it's about $50,000 just this year. So we did, at a previous meeting, the council did agree that we want to go ahead and withdraw from that tax, and we want to use those funds in other ways to benefit the city. So we have an ordinance that's been prepared that will abolish that particular tax. And how come I don't have that here? Oh, it's in this one.
6F.
I've got it. And I did check with VIA to ask them if they had any plans to provide any services out here, and the answer was no, not in the near or even the long term, because they're revamping how they're doing public transportation anyway. So they're focusing on their existing routes that are in place, and we're not even on the radar screen.
Excuse me, are those going to help out the people that are handicapped?
Okay, sir, first of all, we have a public comment section early in the meeting, and once we've gone back into session, then we can't answer any
My
questions.
apology, I thought you were...
But we're free, no, we're free to talk to you after the meeting if you want. Okay, thank you.
We have a band pilot program.
I'm not here because I'm not even support for nobody.
All right, so we have an ordinance here that will allow us to take the 1/2% sales tax. And then we would be able to utilize that in another fashion to benefit the city. And because it's a component of sales tax, and our sales tax numbers continue to grow, the 50,000, actually it's about 59,000, but I'm backing out a deposit that was somewhat questionable. So we'll go with 50 for this year, but that number will continue to grow over the years. So I don't see any benefit to handing that money off to VIA. And,
I move to approve ordinance 2019-142.
wait.
You got more to it?
Because, well, the way the ordinance is broken up is it provides for a quarter sales tax for street and maintenance and a quarter sales tax for the type B corporation, which was not
Within the same
adopted.
ordinance.
So that would need to be amended. What the council can do is have a 1/2% sales and use tax in general, contingent on the withdrawal from VIA.
so we would leave Proposition B as is, which is withdrawal from VIA Metropolitan Transit, and then we would amend C and remove D.
Yes.
Okay.
And C would strike well, there's specific ballot language in the tax code, but generally Proposition C would strike for maintenance and repair of municipal streets from Proposition C. And it would just be a municipal sales and use tax at the rate of 1/2 of 1%.
1/2 of 1%.
Right, to provide.
Well, she put 1/4, it would be 1/2 of 1%.
Provide revenue.
But it would be contingent. The passage of the 1/2 sales tax would be, or the application of the 1/2 sales tax would be contingent on the withdrawal from VIA. So both would need to
It
pass.
has to be voted.
Yeah, it goes on the ballot, for sure, yes.
Should be 4 different propositions under this,
Well-
under the VIA tax.
Can't really get.
Actually, we're going to reduce it to 3, A, B, and C. But A is not on here, that's a different thing. So Proposition B is withdrawal of the VIA Metro, which, now that I think about that, we're not going to have an A, are we?
Well, A is in the bond.
Oh, A is in the
ordinance,
bond, I thought it was the
later on the
MTA.
agenda. So if council, it really depends on council,
Okay.
the way they want the agenda, or the ballot.
The ballot. So we'll leave Proposition B as it is, withdrawal from the MTA. And then Proposition C would be the adoption of a local sales and use tax at the rate of 1/2 of 1%.
Yes.
And we don't have to specify,
Yeah, so this is
Correct.
1/4, so 1/2.
it's 1/2 instead of a 1/4, yes.
And then do.
And strike Proposition D.
Does that make sense to everyone on council?
Does that make sense?
So the
Okay.
remaining of the sentence will then continue to say
At where it
contingent on
says-
the results?
To provide gets struck from there.
Oh, okay, the whole sentence?
The whole sentence,
Okay, not contingent on the results.
exactly.
Contingent on the results of the
Contingent
state.
states.
That would, okay, so just the to provide revenue for maintenance and repair of municipal streets will be struck.
Yes.
Okay, and all of D.
And all of D, correct.
And the same on section 6, the way the ballot is written would be changed too.
Okay. So that whole big paragraph is D?
Yes.
So strike all of D. And this would be 1/2. Okay. Okay, we have any other questions or comments on ordinance 2019-142?
And just with that, some of the, all the recitals will change that reference the Development Corporation Act and Chapter 327 of the tax code.
And where are you seeing, you
The
seeing it in
recitals.
caps? Oh, down here?
Sandra, will you amend this?
Yes, so that's all good. I probably need a motion to amend as discussed, so we can make those changes.
Oh, I see where it is, 1/2 goes over here.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll strike this one. It talks about the EDC. And the next one talks about the EDC. What about this chapter 327? We'll strike this as well?
That would be struck.
And so this one says, an election to approve an additional sales and use tax. It's not
So
an
that would be,
additional.
yeah, that's struck. That
The whole
would be struck.
thing?
Just
Okay.
the additional.
Oh, just the additional.
And probably the reference, maybe the statutory reference.
So it just, Texas Tech requires an election to approve.
Probably strike that whole.
The whole thing, that's what I was thinking. Okay, and then the election on the next uniform election date, got it. Hold on, 5th of November. Okay. All right, so here we go. If you go back on page, does the caption have any, here it is.
The caption would be changed as
Okay,
well.
so 1/2. Wow, this one becomes contingent on, okay. Okay, so in the caption, we're going to strike, we're going to change the part where it says an additional sales and use tax within the city at a rate of 1/2 instead of 1/4 of 1%, and we're going to strike to provide revenue for maintenance and repair of municipal streets, just on that section.
So that means that will go specifically to streets then, is that?
No, no, we're striking that,
Okay,
yes.
but that's what it would have been.
Well, there were some other things we were looking at as well, so we don't have to designate exactly where it goes, but it will go into the general fund for some maintenance and repairs. On the second page, the second whereas statement, again, where it says approve a 1/4, it should read 1/2 of 1% municipal sales and use tax. Then we're going to strike for street maintenance and a 1/4 of 1% type B corporation economic development. We're going to strike all of that. We're going to strike the next next 4 paragraphs. And on Proposition C, it's going to read 1/2 of 1%, and we're going to strike from the to provide revenue, strike the rest of that paragraph. Strike the entire Proposition D. And on the next to the last page, Proposition C, again, change that from 1/4 to 1/2 of 1%, and then strike from to provide revenue for maintenance and repair, strike the remainder of that line, strike the entire Proposition D, and that's it.
I think your mic's not working.
It says it's on.
It doesn't sound like it's
Hello?
working. It doesn't. That's better.
We still have to take it to the Texas Department of Transportation. It's in the contract and several other sections.
Question for you, she's asking, do we still have to provide it to Texas Department of Transportation?
Yes, because it's via. to be
Because
issued.
it's,
Oh,
would someone like to make a motion on that one?
I move that we accept ordinance number 2019-142 as discussed,
As amended? Okay.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Alderman Walker and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve ordinance 2019-142 as amended. Were there any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And you'll rework this one for us before we sign it, okay. So item 6D is discuss and or possible action on establishing a police/crime fund. Assuming that the via tax is abolished, this is one of the items that I would propose that we use those funds for. One thing that we are trying to do is get to a full 24/7 coverage through the marshal's office. Personnel is one of the most costly expense items that we have. This would go towards any equipment, vehicles, head count, whatever the safety and security items are that that department would need. And we would designate a portion, however much you think is appropriate. Remember, we have 1/2 of 1%, so we could do 1/4 of that to this particular fund.
Is there a benefit to this?
Is there a benefit to this, or we're just putting it in the budget?
Ken, I'm going to defer to you on that.
In the past, when these police, some call it a crime district, I find that offensive. But what that does is it stubs that money that it is used only in support of the marshal's office. It becomes technically a specified reserve, but those monies can only be spent in the furtherance of law enforcement in the city.
Does the comptroller, when they provide the deposits to us and the report of that deposit, will it then, if we designate it that way, would they then identify the value of that deposit?
It's not been my experience that the comptroller does anything other than to charge you a fee to return to you your sales tax money. But once it reaches the city, then Catherine, yourself, whomever, can split that money out based upon the .25 for the marshal's office, .25 for road repairs. Given the thought that if the bond issue passes and you redo all the streets in the city, this way you will also have a specified reserve to maintain those new streets, rather than looking at something that you're going to have to go back and redo again in 20 years. This way you'll be able to maintain those roads from here on out. Same with the marshal's office. As his mission grows, these sales tax dollars grow, and then of course all of those expenditures would have to come back before the council again to authorize that expenditure.
So would you recommend that we set up an assigned reserve fund for the marshal specifically? We'll talk about the next item on the agenda. But
Yes, ma'am.
So set up an assigned line item for that fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I would just, to add to this, just look at any city, look at the city of San Antonio. The biggest part of their budget is public safety. So I think anywhere where we have the opportunity to add some funds to that
That department.
that department for the purpose of public safety. It's a good idea.
You gentlemen have any comments?
That was just my only question.
Okay. Alderman Garcia?
No,
Good?
I'm fine, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion? And I would recommend on this one that we do the assigned reserve line item for that to capture those dollars. So it's up to you if you want to include that in a motion.
Well, then, I'll make a motion then that we establish the police crime fund. Do we have to designate how much now, or?
No, because it'll be a calculation off the sales tax.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Alderman Tomasini and a second by Alderman Rapino to establish a police/crime fund. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Can I confirm,
I'm sorry?
can I confirm that we're not assigning a reserve line item? Was
Well,
that
I was
part
going
of the
to
motion?
ask that as a second item for, can we do that on this? Okay,
Well, for the budget.
yes,
No, not.
okay. We'll address that at budget
Next
time.
time.
Yes, at budget time.
Good.
I thought you were going to include it in the resolution.
On here?
It was for budget part, you could say where the,
This isn't the one. This is street maintenance. Oh, this is
okay,
it.
there's one. You could ask the council, somebody to vote on this.
Okay. Alderman Tomasini, would you consider pulling that item back for reconsideration?
Sure.
And
Okay.
then we'll take a
That's
motion.
with our attorney recommendation.
You need to make a motion in a second to...
Is to reconsider?
Then I'll make a motion to reconsider establishing the police crime fund.
I'll second again.
Okay. So, what we were just discussing is we should... Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor of bringing this back for consideration, all say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that motion carries. Okay, so the reason for this was we can put into the ordinance that we want to establish a reserve line item. And we did approve the police and the crime fund, but we actually have an ordinance to do that, so we should probably consider it. Oh, I'm sorry, resolution to establish that, but also include the language for the line item in the budget. And so where would we place that?
Create section 5.
That's what I was thinking.
Or just include in section 2,
In section 2.
maybe after, after the sentence that says the fund's revenues may come from any source not prohibited by city ordinance or state or federal law.
Okay. And just add in here,
The budget line item shall
so we could add a budget line item would be created as assigned under the reserve funding.
yes.
Okay, do we want to try that again? So we're going to amend section 2. We're going to add a line at the end of that paragraph that says create line item for reserved assigned on the budget. Other than that, we're not changing anything else on the ordinance, so. You do it again?
Then I make a motion. I make a motion then that we establish the police crime fund as it was amended.
You want to reference the resolution?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 2019-105?
Correct. And Alderman Rapino, you second. Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Thomasini and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve Resolution 2019-105 with the amendment to create the line item for reserve assigned on the budget. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, item 6E. Discuss and or possible action on establishing a street maintenance fund. This is Resolution 2019-106. It is the other part of the available funding from abolishing the MTA. And I would probably recommend also on paragraph 2, section 2, adding the same language that we did on the first one. So we'll add a sentence to the end of section 2 that says create line item on budget as reserve assigned. Can I get a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we establish the street maintenance fund. And as amended.
I'll second again.
And
It was 2019-106.
yes. Okay, so Alderman Thomasini has made a motion to approve Resolution 2019-106 with the amendment under Section 2 to create a line item for reserve assigned on the budget, and we have a second from Alderman Rapino. Can I get, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, moving right along. Item 6G, discuss and/or possible action on selecting a financial advisor. At a previous meeting, we had Mark McLeany
McLeany with Samco.
with Samco, who presented to us on the bond, and the council did approve to place the bond on the November ballot. What we need to do now is select a financial advisor to guide us through that. Am I doing this correctly, Ken? So far so good, okay. So my recommendation would be that we select Samco as our financial advisor for the bond transaction. Does anyone?
For the city in general.
I'm sorry?
As for the city in general.
Yes. So not only for the bond, but also for, okay. Is that a paid position?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Normally, the fees for your financial advisor come out of the proceeds of the bond.
Okay,
It won't be an expense that you'll have to book on existing funds.
okay,
The same holds true with your bond counsel.
okay, perfect. Does anyone have any questions or
I do.
any other party you'd like to nominate for that? Okay. And we're just going to name Samco, not a specific agent from them. Okay.
And this is a financial advisor for the, what now, bonds and
The bond.
for the bonds? And those are the only people that you could come up with?
Well, he's the one who came out and did the presentation for us. At the time that he did the presentation, we probably should have had this item on the agenda.
Okay, all right.
I'll entertain a motion if anyone is so inclined.
You haven't even called for the bond yet, number H. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'll make a motion then that we select Samco as the financial advisor.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Alderman Tomasini to select Samco as our financial advisor. Can we get a second?
A second.
Alderman Walker seconds. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
I sustain.
Okay. The motion will carry. Okay. Item 6H is discussing or possible action on an ordinance calling for a bond election to be held by the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, and matters related to conducting the election. So at our previous meeting, the council did agree to move forward with the bond and place it on the November ballot. This is actually approving an ordinance to make that happen. And that would be for this ordinance 2019-141. I know there's a lot of information in here, and we have somebody that's going to talk to us here in just a little bit about the whole process. Would it be okay to bring her in now and let her talk before we do
I'd just like to
that?
put out there for the folks that are here that the reason this is going to bond is because we were giving the citizens the opportunity to give their input. We could have moved forward with a certificate of obligation without going to an election. So by going to an election, the citizens that live here will have a say in whether or not they want these streets repaired. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I have a question. How much is it gonna cost the city to put this on the election?
On the ballot?
On the ballot?
Yeah.
I don't know that is there another fee associated with putting an item?
Is there a fee that goes along that the city has to pay?
Turn off?
Mine are
It's taken from, all services are taken from the bond proceeds themselves.
No,
and
he's talking about actually placing it on the
Yeah,
ballot.
actually placing it on the ballot. Is it gonna cost the city to put that on?
Do you want to add, I don't know what the additional cost is with the elections administrator, if there's an additional cost since we're already having an election. I don't know what the extra cost is with the elections
I would say
administrator. but-
it's cheaper to do it while there's a general election rather than calling for a special election to do it. while
Exactly.
It would cost more money. So doing it in conjunction with
Okay,
the
so
general.
in other words, you don't know.
Well, we
No,
we
we don't
never
get a
know, we
cost.
never know what an election costs
We don't
until
get
they
a
bill
bill for
us.
the general election
But I will
until
tell
And if
you-
we're gonna put it on the ballot, I mean, shouldn't they inform us on how much it's gonna cost the city?
They don't know that. It's based on the percentage of voters from everyone who votes throughout the county. It's not, they don't just give you a price and say that's what it is. I know Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were 2 elections The last 2 elections, we actually got a refund back from the elections department based on what we paid. And then they went and redid everything, and they gave us, one of them was a significant amount, $6,000 or something. Yeah, so we don't know what it's going to
Ms.
cost.
Rose wants to, if she's allowed to speak on it.
Yes, please.
If I may. Mayor, Council, my name is Rose Koneski. I am an attorney with Norton Rose Fulbright, who is bond counsel to the city. In my experience in working with Bear County in the past, there has not been an additional fee for the bond elections when you already have something on the ballot. So it is an advantage that you already have something on the ballot.
Thank you.
And to confirm what you were saying, it is based on percentages, so
Yeah.
at this point, all we could do is give you an estimate.
Right. Thank you. Does that answer your question on the
Yeah,
RCO?
that's the question.
Okay. Now, and what was she on?
Well, it's not specified, but it's the, I think it's G. Oh, H.
H, thank you. And so Rose was invited to come to our council meeting to answer any questions for the council about the whole bond process. So why don't I let you kind of address the council on kind of what to expect and how this works, and maybe then we'll all have a better understanding.
So the process has already started. From this point, you have the option to actually order the election. And then there'll be some additional steps where my office would work very closely with Ms. Yelton and with Ms. Ortiz to provide legal notice. But we also highly encourage you, part of your official role is to provide information to the community. Of course, Ms. Ortiz and I can work with you very closely on making sure that your message is one of education and not of advocacy. But it's important to get the word out about how the money will be used. In this case, it's going to be really straightforward for street construction rehabilitation. So during the process, we have to provide notice in a variety of ways. The notice is substantially different from what you're used to seeing in a regular trustees or alderman's type of election. We will have to post on a website the actual notice of election in both English and Spanish. We post that same notice on the bulletin board where you would normally post your meeting notices, and in 3 public places. And that would not be the same building if, for example, you're using this building for your meeting notices. So in the past, I have used places like the corner of Valero as meeting those requirements. Additionally, there will be publication in the newspaper, and it's very important for a bond election. Ms. Callanan's publication in the Express News will not be sufficient because it does not include the actual ballot language. So we will need to do another publication in English and in Spanish that contains the actual ballot language. A sample ballot will also need to be provided on your website. So there will be many opportunities for the public to receive notice. After the election, there will be an opportunity for you to meet and canvass the results of all of your elections. And from there, we wait about 30 days. That's the time frame for contesting an election. And when that time frame closes, my office will prepare what we call a transcript of proceedings. We put together a package of the election documents and of the financial documents from your financial advisor. And we provide those to the Public Finance Division of the Texas Attorney General. And that office actually has the power to prevent issuance of bonds if they see anything that's illegal. So the office just checks our paperwork, and once it is approved, your financial advisor and your legal team can take the bonds to the market, sell them, and start the ball rolling for getting your streets repaired.
Okay. And
you have a list of things and a timeline?
I actually do have a timeline.
Send it to me.
I sent it to you, but I'll make sure that Ms. Elton gets it and so distribute it to everyone. It's a timeline with all the legal deadlines on it for each of those events. They have, of course, their own deadlines. As each stage approaches, or as each deadline approaches, I will be providing to Ms. Hilton and Ms. Ortiz detailed instructions. I don't normally provide everything up front because it's such a huge volume of paperwork, you'd be scared. But as it enrolls, we'll issue that out. And I will probably be emailing and on the telephone all the time, and Ms. Hilton will probably get tired of me at the end of it. But my job is here to support you and her as part of this unrolls, that we work together really closely and to make it happen.
And if you remember from when Samco was here, he talked about this is not something that our city attorney does. This requires special attorneys who work this on our behalf. And then you're paid from the proceeds from the bond, if I'm not
That's right.
mistaken. Samco and yourself would be paid from the proceeds.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And as far as the fees, the professional fees for my office, it's very important also, I think, to note that if for some reason this measure does not pass, if the voters did not want it, you don't owe us anything.
Nothing on your end other than the notifications ahead of time. Nothing happens from you till after, the 30 days after we canvass the vote.
Well, my
or the
office will
election.
be helping to prepare all the supporting documentation. So all of the notices, the publications for the newspaper, we'll provide all of that for you.
Okay. So from a timeline perspective, as we prepare for the election that's coming up, what are some critical dates that we need to be aware of?
The big one, of course, is August 19th. That's the deadline for calling election. And from there, October the 15th, I believe, is our deadline for posting. The publication window is October the 9th through I think the 23rd.
Okay.
So our newspaper of general circulation is not the San Antonio Express News, although it's the Wilson County?
Wilson County
News.
Oh, okay.
So,
But we could still do it in the San Antonio
yeah,
Express
does
News.
it require that we do in the Express, so we do in the Wilson County News and the San Antonio Express News, or?
You use Wilson County News for your truth and taxation notices?
Public record.
All the public
Newspaper
records?
public
Yes,
record.
yes.
Actually, I think we do for the taxation, does go there. San Antonio Express News also.
It goes in both
Yes.
newspapers?
I think so. I'll double check for the, I know it definitely goes in Wilson.
Okay,
But
so,
I would prefer, I think, for this, that it go into San Antonio Express
Okay,
News.
that's good.
Yeah, in addition to Wilson County News, which is our newspaper of record.
right. If you choose more than one newspaper, my recommendation would be to pick the one that is the best pricing for the long legal notice. And then I have a shorter version that you can use. It still provides voting information like polling locations. It just can be shorter in a secondary location.
Okay, so Wilson County News from a pricing perspective is most definitely
It's-
better for the
yes.
longer version.
Yes. Good. Thank you. That was very important for me to know.
Okay, so August 19th is our first big date that's coming up here.
Right. If you take action tonight, of course, you will be satisfying
We're
that
set.
deadline.
We're good. Okay. So did anyone else on the council have a question for Rose? Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay.
Thank you.
Okay. So back to 6H. We are considering ordinance 2019-141, which is calling for a bond election to be held by the city of Sandy Oaks related to conducting the election.
Move to approve ordinance 2019-141, calling for the special election for the purpose of
Bond election.
bond.
Not a special election, it's a bond election. I know.
Let me back that up. Yeah. 2019-141, calling for a bond election.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman,
Bob left any amount of $800,000, $800,000
yes.
for street repairs.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay, and Alderman Rapino has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion or questions?
I was just wondering, what's the interest rate? I remember him saying 4, and I saw in here 5, or is that just a,
Ken, do you have an idea on the interest rate?
I'm sorry, I was asleep.
We'll try to be more animated here.
Yes, ma'am.
Interest rate on the bond.
Interest rate will be set by those wonderful people at Standard & Poor's, and what they will do is look at your past audits, they'll look at your financial situation and your ability to repay. And at that time, that's when the interest rate will be set.
Okay. And so if I recall correctly, the bond will be a number set against the ad valorem taxes, which is property tax.
Yes,
So it's
ma'am.
not dependent on sales tax, which could fluctuate, but it's set on the property tax.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I think the gentleman from Samco mentioned 4%, but again, we won't know definitively.
And again, we have no control over what the Fed does with prime.
Right.
That will also have an effect on what kind of rate you get on this bond.
And Rose, from your experience, generally, what is a range that we might expect?
Right now, I'm seeing anywhere from 4 to 5% in that range. It's important, Alderman Rapino, we have to provide an estimate at this point in time as part of our disclosure to your electorate, but it's really months before we're able to take it to the market.
Right.
So it, at this point, is our best estimated and educated guess.
okay, I was just wondering because he mentioned 4, but
He
I
did.
knew that each organization has a, a bond rating. So
I have a question. I hope this doesn't happen to the city, but what happens to the city if they default on a payment?
We don't default. Remember, the money comes from the ad valorem taxes, the property taxes.
The property taxes?
Yes.
But what happens if we do miss a payment?
We don't miss a payment because is
sure?
that not collected from the comptroller? How is the bond satisfied? How's the payment done? Do we issue a payment or does the comptroller send that money?
No, it's not from the comptroller's office.
So we would send the money?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Just like if you went to GMAC and bought a car.
Okay.
you get a paycheck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only,
It's like a mortgage almost.
Exactly.
Yes.
yeah,
So-
mortgages.
So then the question becomes, are payments monthly or annually?
They will probably be twice a year.
Twice a year, okay. So
Honestly,
we-
my opinion is that I don't think the city's financially secure enough to go for bonds. I think we should do everything on our own. And I'm not saying that the bonds are not a good thing. Maybe we could go for it later on, several years down the road. I think we should exhaust all of our resources, and especially grants. There's a lot of grants out there that could be got, and I know that there's an opening and a closing. But if we don't have somebody aggressively looking for grants to help the city, we could go into debt because of this. I know some cities that I've done some research on that has gotten into debt because of bonds. And I'm kind of like, I'm not really too sure about this bond situation anymore.
Well, I think when we get to the budget sessions, I think it'll be much clearer to you. We were talking, the 800,000 would be 4 cents, estimated at 4 cents.
INS at 4 cents, tempered with the idea that we draw 4%.
Right.
You have to budget that payment too.
Well, sure.
Budget, so
Yes.
the money,
I mean, if we
we
put
should
money
keep
in
it
the
in
bank
reserve, yeah.
and draw the interest off of that money and then use it, why do we need a bond? If we put $40,000 in the bank and have it draw interest for the year, we could use that money at the end of the year.
So let me ask you this. If you want to put $40,000 aside for roads, how many roads can you do for $40,000 a year? And how many years, wait, how many years will it take to address every road in the city?
Yeah, but my understanding is that when the guy gave his presentation, he said, correct me if I'm wrong, but he said we can only use $40-something thousand a year out of that $800 bond? Is that-
No.
No?
No.
Okay, then I misunderstood
No,
him.
No.
I misunderstood him. So we could use the whole $800,000.
We used the whole thing, and I think it was over.
You actually
in a-
have a limited amount of time to use it.
We have a
You
limited
can't-
amount of time to
You
use
can't use
it.
it, keep it for 2 years, 3 years. You have a set time that you have
Exactly.
to use
Excuse
that
me.
money.
The 800,000 is the total issuance of the bond. 750,000 of it will be dedicated to the roads. The other 50,000 is head space built in to defer the cost of bond counsel, financial counsels, any of the ancillary costs that go with the issuance. Do I think it's going to be 50,000? I don't, my experience tells me it's not going to be that much, but I'd rather err on the side of caution and have that 50 sitting there to defer those costs.
Okay. All right.
And so we get our ad valorem taxes monthly. Every month we get a tax deposit from Bear County Appraisal District. And so to make the payment is not an issue because it's collected from the ad valorem taxes. It's a portion of that that's collected.
Pertaining to the interest rate, and the 4% was mentioned, quoted, however you want to look at it, last month. Feds have lowered the prime. Would that not have a bearing even on the 4%? It could even be lower than 4%.
I would submit that the qualification that's on the audit statement will have more effect on the rate than anything the prime does.
Okay. Thank you.
If you have a bad credit rating, you're gonna get 20%.
Right.
If you're good, you'll get 4, 3, whatever the.
But they do have grants for streets and parks and et cetera, don't they? If we apply for those.
Well, sir, we are not included in the block grant out of the county. And the reason for that is we do not have the basic economic data available for us to participate in that. And on the federal level, over the last 36, 48 months, the monies available for grants have been diminished considerably. You've had the monies that were previously available for like block grants or transportation improvements, a lot of those monies were even with the special legislation that went along with these disasters that they've had to come in and shore up. There is precious little grant money out there that we as a city could avail ourselves of.
Well, and the other thing with grants, he's absolutely correct. We don't qualify for any grant. We can go hunt for grants. We're not even going to be considered because we don't have an economic survey done. So as part of the master plan, I'm asking Tony to help us with that. Even with an economic survey done, we have to be below a threshold to even be considered for grants. Then you got to wait for grants to be announced, and then you have to apply. That's a 3 to 4 year process before you see a dime, assuming you get a grant.
I know all that.
Okay.
I will mention that it's not easy to get a grant.
It's not easy to get
And
grants.
there
I know
are costs
it's not
involved,
easy to
and
get
if
a
you don't
grant.
get it, you're out the money that you paid.
Exactly, and there's a match, and there's a match that goes with the grant.
Sometimes there's a match.
No, there's almost always a match. It can be a low match, it can be up to
I've
50%.
gotten grants, but lots of.
And there's one thing that is, I mean, I guess it's a worse secret, kept secret in the entire world, but the reporting requirements for a grant are onerous. You would have the equivalent of one full-time employee that did nothing but account for that grant.
Someone who has applied for grants, many grants, I hate grants.
Yeah.
Because it is you're working till 11 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
providing all kinds of information. And then you have to sweat that, you're going to lose the money you spent to do it, so.
So at the previous meeting, we did discuss, the council did approve to place this bond on the ballot for November, which is what we're doing here. Let the citizens decide if they want to do that. Then it's up to the council to make sure that the education aspect of that is addressed, so that the citizens can make an informed decision. I think once, I'm still drafting all of that and coming up with the numbers, and I think everyone will be very, very, very pleased with how this works out.
Remember, the city is prohibited. You can't go out and try to sell the bond to the public. You can only provide the data that supports the issuance of the bond. Now, on the other side of the table, if the citizens organize and they're against them, they don't play with the same rules that the city has to.
I
Okay,
will
so
say,
if they
probably.
vote it down,
Go
then
ahead,
that means we cannot apply for these bonds for at least 2 years, correct?
That is correct.
I want to say that putting it on the ballot is what the community wants. They're asking for transparency, and that's what we're doing.
Exactly.
We're not deciding to get a grant, we're deciding to let the citizenry say their piece, and then we're bound by it.
Right. And it does cost more, as Ken mentioned, the cost estimate from the engineer is $750,000. But we're going for the $800,000 to cover the additional cost to put it on the ballot, to make it transparent for the citizens. So it's more costly to do that, but I think it's the right way to do it.
Are we going to know the percentage rate
We won't know.
before election?
No.
So that won't be part of the
No, that's what she
information
was,
package.
right. And then the term of the bond would be 20 years?
It can be. You have up to 40 years the maximum by law. And what I'm seeing right now on most bond sales are 20 to 30.
Okay. And are there early payoff penalties?
No, in fact, many entities refund, is what we call them, refund bonds. And that just means they're paid off early.
Okay. And my reason for even bringing that up is at the rate of increase that I'm seeing in property values, that, and assuming it's at the rate that we're talking about, the 4 cents, it would definitely be paid off early. I didn't want to your point about not being able to make the payment, trust me, that's not an issue. That is more than covered here.
Council may wish to entertain 15-year payback.
I would much rather go for a 20 and pay it off early than to commit to a 15.
15 is like a year of free car washes.
I know.
It makes them more marketable.
Well, there is that. So from an interest rate perspective, we might get a better deal if we went with a 15-year.
I want to ask, can we refinance? We've refinanced, not the city, but someplace else that I work. We refinanced a bond, and we got a lower interest rate.
You'd have to call the bond, pay it off, and reissue it. That is not cost effective for
Yeah.
Well, we made several $100,000 when we did it, so, but it was a huge grant.
Yeah.
I mean, a huge bond.
Right.
Not for 80, not for...
No, it was like more like 20 million.
Yeah, they spill more coffee than that of bourbon almost.
Okay, is there any other discussion? We have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve ordinance 2019-141, calling for the bond election to be held. Can I get all in favor to say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sustained.
Okay. So the motion does carry. And Rose, thank you very much for coming out.
It
I
was my
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you.
Okay.
Council does not need to take any other action, I mean, as formally, right, other,
No,
you don't need anything else from council up until the election, right?
other than signatures, which I understand there'll be quite a few later, so I'm
Yes.
just gonna
Okay.
add to the stack.
Okay, that's fine. Catherine will make sure we all do what we're supposed to do. Okay, item 6I is discuss and or possible action on scheduling the date, time, and place of the first town hall meeting for public comments on the comprehensive master plan from the city. And Tony is not here this evening. So I did talk with him, and we discussed 2 dates. The first one being August 17th, which is a Saturday, and then another one on a Wednesday evening, which would be August 21st. The challenge we're faced with is, in addition to the public meetings for the master plan, we also have to be considerate of the public hearings for the budget that are coming up. And then we also have all of our committees and everything else. So trying to find some time that works. I think for right now, since Tony's not here and that is part of what he needs to do, I would ask the council members, are you okay with a Saturday and a Wednesday? Are those dates too soon? Do you want to do them later? Do you want to wait and we'll bring Tony into the next meeting and have a different discussion? One of the things that these dates are contingent upon is he's supposed to be reaching out to each of the council members individually and having a discussion on your input for the master plan. And then that would be incorporated along with the public sessions as well. So it's up to you how you want to do that. The 17th is a week from this Saturday. That might be too soon.
Well, the budget,
The budget hearing is probably the most important for right now, isn't it, though?
Yeah, but we don't have to have those till September. I want to do them as soon as we can, but the deadline on those is in September. Early September, but it is in September. So if nobody really has, can I just pull this one, or do you want to?
Get with Tony and
Okay.
get his dates that he's available rather than we all commit to.
Exactly.
So,
Okay, so I'll go ahead and pull this one, and I'll follow up with Tony on this. Okay.
if you get those dates, you could send out an email and check availability with the council. You
Yes.
could respond.
Okay. Have any of you heard from him on the individual? Nobody? Okay. I'll make sure that he starts making those calls, because that's critical to the getting all of this rolling.
As a reminder, do not hit respond all on that email.
Yes. Okay, so discuss and or possible action on scheduling the date, time, and place for the public hearing on the proposed 2019-2020 fiscal year budget. Okay. We do have a calendar. So August 29th is the last day for the budget officer to file the proposed budget with the city clerk. And then September 1st is our notice that we have to provide of the proposed tax rate. So with that in mind,
Actually, y'all are on the levy city, so you don't,
we don't have to do the September 1st?
it's 7 days for the tax rate, it's adopted.
Wait, say that again?
If y'all are a low levy city,
We
which
are.
is less than, or 500,000 and less than 50 cents per $100,
Mhm.
the notices are different. So it's 7 days before the adoption of tax rate.
And we don't adopt the tax rate till September 29th or so?
Well, that's the last day under statute.
Exactly. The September 29th, we have to, that's the absolute last day to adopt the tax rate. So, and then there's some publications that have to occur, so we have to take the last day kind of back up where we need to be. It also says September 29th, the city should adopt the budget no later than this. Hearing on the budget, the last date would be September 28th. I really don't want to wait that long.
You have to have 2 hearings?
No, we're a low levy, so we only have to do one.
Oh.
I'm sorry?
I think we've done 2 in the past, but
No.
a couple times that.
I think we've only done one.
No.
Yeah. So we're not going to do the September 26th. And the last day for the first hearing, so if we operate as if we're only going to do the one hearing, September 23rd is the last date for that. And the last day to publish the notice of the budget hearing is September 18th. So using the September 18th date, that is a Wednesday. We have our next meeting on the 22nd.
20, oh, ours, yes. I thought you were still in September.
No, August. What does council feel for a budget hearing? Do you want to do it on a weekend? Do you want to do it during the week? Catherine, August 28th is a Wednesday. Do we have anyone scheduled for any meetings on that date?
No, ma'am.
So August 28th is a Wednesday. Is that, is that date acceptable to everyone?
And we just need the one meeting.
We just need one public meeting, one public hearing on the budget.
That means you need to have it on file the 13th.
I can do that, which is next Tuesday. Yeah, I pretty much got it done. I'm just tweaking a few things.
Do we
Well-
have to have a public hearing on the budget or the tax increase? Or both?
The budget.
On the
Both
budget. Adopting the tax rate is something different. Okay, so we could do August 28th at 6:30 PM here at City Hall. Does that work? Okay. So would someone like to make a motion then, please?
Move to approve August 28th, 6:30 PM for a scheduled public hearing on the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget.
Okay. We have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to schedule August 28th, 6:30 PM at City Hall for a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year budget for next year. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Rapino seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And you said my deadline is August 13th. Okay, no worries. Okay, next is item 6K, discuss and or possible action on the publication date for the fiscal year tax rate. And that, it says September 1st.
First is Sunday.
Well, it's just the publication date.
Wait, how much did you do, Jen? Oh,
Yes, we
sorry,
did.
I missed it, sorry. I was
Don't
thinking
confuse me.
tax, yeah.
And Catherine, the deadline for publication at Wilson County News is Friday for the following Wednesday. Okay.
So it's 7 days before the council adopts the tax rate, so whatever meeting the council's gonna adopt the tax rate, at least 7 days before that.
So,
And the budget needs to be on file for 30 days before the tax rate is adopted.
yeah, this is where it gets really confusing. Yeah. So, the budget, I'll deliver the budget to the city clerk on the 13th. And that means we can't have, 30 days from that is September 13th. And then we need 7 more days.
No, 7 days before the tax rate is adopted. So between that time.
Oh, sometime between here? Okay. And we're gonna have, so could we, on the 30th, which would be 2 days after the public hearing, then we could publish the tax rate?
Then it would be published on the 4th?
It would be published on the 4th.
You're talking August 30th and September 4th?
Yes.
August 30th.
Wait, you said it needs to be 7 days before September 13th?
Before the tax rate is adopted. So whatever meeting that would
The
be.
tax rate's gonna be adopted.
It could be used the second Thursday, the 19th. It would need to be published the 11th.
So
And what's the
Thursday's the 12th.
It could be published before then, so if we wanted to publish it on the 4th.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we go with September 11th anyway? For
Publication?
publication of the tax rate.
Tax rate on the 11th.
Yeah, let's do no later than the 11th.
Scratch space here.
I'm sorry?
Running out of scratch space.
Sorry.
September the 11th for publication.
No later than.
All right.
So give it to Wilson County by Friday the 6th.
Exactly. So no later than September 11th. Okay, so do we have a motion on 6K?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we publish the fiscal year tax rate no later than September the 11th of 2019.
And does that just run for one cycle?
I don't remember. I think it's just 7 days before one time.
So just one publication suffices?
I think so.
Yeah, it doesn't say. It just says it needs to be published.
I guess it would just to clarify, it'd be the proposed tax rate.
The proposed tax rate.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Thomasini to approve publication of the proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2019-2020 to be no later than September 11th. And can I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
Alderman Garcia has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, item L, discuss and or possible action on responses to the RFQs for banking services. Excuse me. So, what happened was we did put out an RFQ for banking services and we had 0 responses. So, once we made a publication, a request, and we don't get anything, we can actively go seek people. So, was it you? Was it Alderman Rapino who went to Frost Bank and worked with them to get a proposal? In the meantime, there was some discussion with our current bank, which is JP Morgan Chase.
And he is here, we have a representative. Steve Johnson.
I thought you looked familiar. So the discussion, what prompted all this originally was that apparently we have to reconsider every a certain period of time, 5 years, for banking services. As I understand it, it does not require that we change our provider, but we have to solicit for the bids. So we did do that. And each of you should have your proposals or have received them and hopefully taken a look at them. And Steve Johnson from JP Morgan Chase is here, And is there anything you would like to say to the council?
Yeah, I can't help but reminisce because as Mayor Ball mentioned, so I'm a government banker. I'm based in San Antonio. I've been banking for 35 years. I'm married and grew up in Corsicana, Texas, so I kind of started in a small town bank, so please don't think of me as a big city banker in that regard. But I've been working with governments for 20 years. And my particular area is smaller ones, but I do remember the day that I guess it was Charlotte and the mayor came in and they said we need a bank type deal, and I think they had $1,500, but I don't know exactly where it came from at the time. So over the years I've tried to be as understanding, and I was thinking at the time like, boy, they've got a lot in front of them, and so it's so neat for me to see the aldermans, bond counsel, attorneys and stuff, and guiding from step A to step B and to step Z, and now you get to worry about budgets like every other big city, right? So there you go. But through the process, I've enjoyed the relationship. I try to be accountable if there needs to be a signer change, or with Alderman Rapino if there's questions on the collateral for the citizens here. Anything over $250,000 in deposits is collateralized. So if anything, God forbid, happened to any bank, but we feel pretty safe about Chase. But still, Chase pledges treasuries behind that, and we don't charge for that. I think the proposal I provided is a little bit different because you still don't have the huge activity that would necessitate some of the kind of per item fees, like for deposits and for checks. So what I propose is continuing on like we have, and that is an account we call the Platinum account. That is, we keep $100,000, then basically they're earning fees based on the volumes that y'all are doing. So through the whole time I've tried to be as cost effective for the city, and at the same time be ready for what's next. Whether it's being able to take credit cards, whether it be, I'm a banker, so I don't get into the securities, but I do, CDs, whatever the case may be. But to sum it up, enjoy the relationship with the city. Hope to continue to. I will say, you mentioned nobody responded. Of all things, I was not aware. So I apologize for late coming to the fair. But when I found out, I go, holy cow. Yeah. So I didn't say that, but I said something. And put a proposal together. So.
Well, thank you for coming out.
You're welcome. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. So I don't know what entails to change from one bank to another. Other than Catherine maybe bailing on us. I will tell you that just my experience in working with Chase and meeting with Mr. Johnson on a couple of occasions has been very favorable, very accommodating, very helpful, and I know that Alderman Rapino worked very closely with him on getting the collateralization issue resolved. So my recommendation would be that we just stay where we're at. That would be yours as well. But we will entertain from the council on what they think might be considered.
You're the one that's been doing this. So what?
Well, it would be a lot more trouble to switch banks right now. To get to know the people at Frost, and it certainly would be. I really think the proposals are very close. Some benefit to the Frost proposal, but I don't know if that outweighs the red tape that we'd have to go through to switch. If the mayor is okay with Chase, I'm okay with it too.
Well, and I am trying to be considerate of Catherine's bandwidth because there are a lot of things going on. We're still working to get the court, she's working with Kathy to get the court up and running. There's the animal control software. There's a lot of moving parts right now, and I just don't know that adding one more is...
And then Ken just approved my leave of absence for 3 months.
Boom.
Oh.
With all due respect, I call bullshit.
Darn.
So I will entertain a motion from the council on this one.
I said my piece, but, okay, I'll move that we stay with Chase.
Okay. We have a motion from Alderman Rapino that we continue the services with Chase for our banking.
Second.
And we have a second from Alderman Tremblay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much.
I'll let you down.
Total confidence in you. Thank you.
Does this entail anything, I guess it's not this thing, but it entails us more documents to sign?
Well, there won't be any documents to sign. Eventually, remember, you might need, because this is a state statute that makes you go out every
So many, 5
5 or
years.
6 years, since we're 5 years into it.
Right.
You'll need a kind of a depository contract to prove that this is your contract with Chase. And it could be just kind of recognized in the RFP that you provide, but I'll give it.
Okay. Thank you.
Other than that, no problem.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, item M, discuss and/or possible action on the creation and publication of an RFQ advertisement for audit services for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. We have been using Buyer and Company for the first 3 audits that have been completed. How do I say this delicately? The price for the last one was 20% higher than the previous year. I don't see any justifiable reason for that whatsoever. The timeliness and the completion of the audit was painful, and it didn't have to be. In doing some talking with Mr. Roberts and some others, that price that we have paid for that audit is probably twice what it should be. So Mr. Roberts and I have had a conversation, think it's probably the right time to put an RFQ out there and solicit another auditor so that we can get our next year, the next audit that's due, completed. Have you written the RFQ on that or not?
Ready to go.
Perfect. Do we have a copy of that, or it doesn't really matter, it's just an RFQ for professional services?
Did it at home, I can email it.
Okay. So really what we're looking for from council is just an approval for him to move forward with publishing for an auditor. And remember, now is probably the best time to do that because tax season is over, the big tax season, and that was the problem we had with finding an auditor the first go-round, is everybody was buried. So the sooner we can get an auditor in place, then we can start on the fiscal year 2017-2018 audit and try to get back on track to where we need to be, which is like very soon after a fiscal year closes, then the auditor starts the process.
Then I'll make a motion then that we publicize an RFQ advertisements for audit services for the 2017 to 2018 fiscal year audit.
I'll second.
Okay, one point of clarification on that. Where will we publicize that? Wilson County News?
I would recommend that we do the same thing that we did for banking services, because not all of your audit firms read the much read Wilson County News, that we in fact send those directly to known audit firms that do municipal audits.
Okay, so we still do a publication, but we may reach out to them individually.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we could post it on the city website. I don't know, is TML a place where they would be posting something like that? No, okay. Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Tomasini and a second by Alderman Rapino on authorizing Mr. Roberts to prepare the RFQ for publication. Can I get all in favor to say aye?
May I first of all get a, sorry,
Scared me.
can't gauge this thing. A deadline for the RFQ.
Well, typically 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still.
Okay, so, very good, 30 days. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Item N, Alderman Rapino's investment and pledge reports, discussion and possible action.
It's a requirement in the Public Funds Investment Act that we give a quarterly report on status of our investments. We invested $125,700 on the 24th of June. So this is the third quarter report of our investments and the proceeds from them. And for those 4 days, we made $49.76.
Hey.
So, next quarter, I'm hoping that it is a lot higher.
Hey, for 4 days, that's not bad.
Better than leaving it sit and not getting anything.
Exactly.
And they were our reserve funds is what we invested.
Correct, yes. Does anyone have any questions for Alderman Rapino? Do it? Oh, sorry. Okay, so no action on this one.
No, just to accept the
I think it has to
report.
be approved.
Oh, does it have to be accepted? Oh, okay.
Accept his quarterly reports.
Okay. So,
Then I'll make a motion that we accept his quarterly report
49.
for $49.76.
okay.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Alderman Tomasini and a second by Alderman Rapino to accept the quarterly report, and that was the second quarter.
No.
Third quarter, our third quarter. Fiscal quarter, not calendar. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Okay, moving on. Item 7, City Marshal. Discuss and/or possible action on the purchase of a shotgun or a firearm. I have to say that I'm quite pleased with the speed at which the Marshal's office is coming along, and thank you for that. There's always going to be these little items that are hanging out there that we need to address. This is something that had been brought up before but was never resolved. What I did do was have the Marshal secure pricing on the commercial market, and then have Catherine take that information for the same models to Bear County Purchasing to see if we could get a better price. And I think you've done that. Catherine, I saw an email. I didn't see the attachments, so I'm not quite sure what those were.
Yeah, Marshall Lopez looked at them as well. It's all highlighted.
It's the Bear County contract hire?
Considerably.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
So what we have for the firearm is, he's got two options here that he's proposing, and the first one is a Mossberg 500 Persuader. I like that. Shotgun for $419. That's purchased through Nardis, or a Smith & Wesson, and a whole bunch of numbers. for $919. I did ask the marshal if he had a preference on that. He did say that the AR is the preferred, and so the $919 would be the preferred purchase on that one. And you each should have, and we already have the mount in the Explorer for that.
Yes, we already have the mount installed in there. However, we don't have one installed in the Impala.
In the Impala.
And so there would be,
And for the Impala, is that included in the retrofit that they're doing?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we may have to consider that in the future, okay. All right. And your preference is the Smith & Wesson, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And at this time, we're just looking to purchase one?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from the council?
Will that weapon fit in the safe that we have? How we secure these weapons?
During shift change, like when I'm going off duty, the duty weapon will be placed in the safe itself.
So it will fit in the safe?
Yes. Or what can happen is, because it's placed in the evidence room at that time, and there's only a certain amount of individuals that can have access to the evidence room, they can be moved outside, and it's going to take a considerable amount to get into that, but it would be locked up.
The only question I have is, I referred to the wisdom of this, and she actually referred before that the AR-15 and the 5.56 has a lot more penetrability. I mean, it has a greater potential to travel further and maybe interdict an innocent bystander. But if you need it, if you come up against something like that, you probably prefer to have. I see this as the preferred weapon. Don't get me wrong. I just have that one caveat about it.
Most definitely, it comes down with the training as well. We have to take into account of the background, depending, obviously, every call is different, every situation is different, and those things will be taken accountability as well with this weapon.
Okay, I just wanted to point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, are there any other questions?
I actually, I agree with the marshal. The Smith & Wesson MP15 would be a better weapon than the shotgun because nowadays with all of the weapons that are out there,
You don't want him being...
yeah, a shotgun is not a match.
Right.
Shotgun is no match for an AR-15.
Yeah, you don't have the range.
Yeah, you don't have the range. You don't have.
You have 30-round magazines if you want to use, or higher.
You don't want to be
So
outgunned
I
by
would
people you're...
hate, I would hate for him to be outgunned.
Right.
And I agree.
I agree,
I
too.
just wanted to point that on
The distance issue,
potential out,
yeah. That's where the training comes in, I think.
Because we're all in range.
Yes. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion on this item?
All right. So I'll move that we approve purchase of the Smith & Wesson MP15.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do you want to do a not to exceed number? It's $919 on there.
Not to exceed $950.
Well, you would actually have to get some ammunition for it. Also, you'd have to get. Would you need extra clips?
Yeah, yes, sir.
How many do you think you would need?
Usually they come with 2. Probably an extra 2 more.
Extra 2 more?
Do you know what those run?
No, I do not.
Those clips, they'll usually run, I want to say no more than $80 a piece.
Oh, I think you can get them like.
I mean, Marshall
Yeah,
does
but-
have a supply, he has a budget for supplies, and that stuff will come out of supplies, if we just
That's true,
authorize,
too.
we can just authorize the weapon. It comes with 2 clips. You
Yeah.
can buy your ammo and everything else out of your Marshall's supply.
Yeah, I think that
budget.
probably works.
So I would approve the Smith & Wesson purchase, not to exceed $950.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve the purchase of the Smith & Wesson, not to exceed $950. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. You get to go shopping. Okay. Item 7B, discuss under possible action on the purchase of portable and mobile radios from the Daily Wells Communications. So Marshall and I actually spent some time with the Bear County lieutenant, and I guess he's the IT guy.
Yes, he's the IT.
Yeah. And it was a very good meeting. We learned a lot. We made a lot of progress. Things are moving right along. They recommended this XL 185 portable, and there was a reason that they recommended this one, because they're going to be upgrading their system in the next 2 to 3 years. They didn't have an exact date. This particular unit will be compatible with the new system, so that's what I think that's what they're using today, and it will transition over nicely to the new system. So the expectation is that we're buying 4 radios, and that is because we would have the marshal, we would have a deputy, we have 2 reservists that we'll be hopefully bringing on board. So everyone needs a radio. This is all about safety. And then, so for the 4 units, $12,660.02. And then the 3-year extended warranty on those units would be $800. And that's just a one-time, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay, so it's not an annual, okay. So we're looking at probably $13,500 max, possibly on that. And those are purchased here locally, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
We previously approved some purchase of radios.
A radio, I think it was a radio. Or it might have been 2 radios.
2 with programming.
But I don't recall the programming is not the issue. Bear County does that for us.
But we had approved.
But I don't recall the models that were approved. Because that conversation didn't happen like it should have.
What about items 2 through 6 on that?
Did you want any of the other options on there, or just the warranty?
I'm sorry.
Under the portable options, just the warranty, you didn't need any of the other items?
Please, once again.
And
You don't
this,
need belt clips or anything?
No, officers as they come in, they have their own holsters. They put it into their own holster.
You don't need any chargers?
They come with the charges at the bottom. They already come with, so
Oh,
there's no
okay.
reason to get another one.
so the total price, just based on this pricing, and it says the price is valid for 60 days from the above date, $13,460.02.
That's just the portables.
Yes.
And we're doing mobiles as well?
We're just doing one mobile. We would be placing that in the Impala itself. So, there is, I guess, here in the park area, a low level signal with that, and that would be able to, if the officer wouldn't be able to get on his handheld, he'll be able to get on the mobile, the inside mode.
So, like, if we can just go through and get the total for the handheld and the mobile, so we have the complete total.
So I think the mobile.
You want the
is page 2.
XG75 as well? Just the one unit?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you're looking at the 185s, you're looking at the 185s?
Yes.
We're looking at the 200s.
No, the 185s.
185, so forget the 200s.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So we're going to add just the one mobile. So that's 32, 67, 50.
I heard the machine. You
I
wanna
came
give,
up with 16,907.52 with the
That's what I came up
warranties.
with.
with warranties on the?
Yes, with the warranties on all of them.
The warranties come with the radios, but we take them in every year so they can configure them, make sure that everything's good, and if something were to go wrong or whatever the case is, they can replace it right there and then.
Okay. So we have a grand total of $16,907.52. If you want to propose a not to exceed.
Yeah, this would be coming out of the marshal's budget.
Yes, it will.
All right, I'll move to approve the purchase of the XL 185 portable radios, quantity 4, as well as one mobile unit, XG 75M, for a total cost not to exceed, I'm just going to say $17,000.
That includes a warranty. So not to exceed, okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to approve the purchase of 4 of the XL 185 with warranty and 1 of the XG 75M with a warranty, not to exceed $17,000. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Item 7C, discuss and or possible action on the purchase of CopSync Mobile from Cologic and instructing the city administrator or the mayor to negotiate a contract. So this is, I knew something like this existed, and it took Marshall Lopez to bring that to my attention, but I hope each of you got an opportunity to look at the link that was sent that you can kind of go do the tour of what this software does. From a safety perspective, I think it was really important because it gives you a view of where other officers are with other departments, not just here, but within Bexar County or even Atascosa County. So that was one item. It allows for electronic ticketing. It allows for activity reports, so data reports on if he wants to generate some kind of report to the council on, here's kind of the things that I've been working on. It's just a better solution. So I'll let him discuss more of what this offers.
So on this program, what it does is it gives a detailed data report of what the officer does when it comes to ticket writing, reports that need to be generated for our files, and if a citizen wants to report, any reports that need to be filed with it, any call that we go, we get information from the citizen, so we place a report, whether it be a noise complaint or a disturbance. All that information goes into that, and it goes in and gets generated. And once we get all that information, we print a report, it goes into our files. Say a citizen want that report to go into an open records request. It gives you all information of racial profiling, everything that you can, and it does along with criminal history checks on anytime we need somebody to run people, it gives a detailed of what we're looking at as well. Just so many things that we can do with this system. Checks and balances of what we're doing out there. How many calls we had for that day. How many stops we had for that day. Who we ran. Just gives a detailed outline of what the officer's doing as well.
And if I'm not mistaken, Bear County has been using this, but they were under the impression that CopSync kind of went away, but it really didn't. But
County has the same thing, but it's this is a little bit more streamlined, more user-friendly, easier to use for the officers as well. County system is a little bit more difficult to use. This just streamlines it and makes things so much easier to inputting information from the suspect, citizens, and things like that.
And this price here of $900, what this is there's an annual $600 fee. It is an agency license. I think that was up to 10 users.
Yes.
Was it up to 10? And then the $900 includes the $300 setup fee on that. So then every year after that, it's $600 to maintain that. And they do the setup and the installation, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It says it requires a cellular network. Will we be able to add this to our Verizon contract?
Yes.
It'll be a secure.
A VPN.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you had already talked to Henry about that with Verizon.
In short, it's a report writing system for us, and it's allow us to put everything that we need when it comes to reports.
It saves you a lot of time.
Yes.
Oh, a lot of time.
And especially citations. We do, like if the system were to go down, we have manually written tickets, and that takes a little bit longer. And so with these citations, you enter the system, it prints it out, it makes things so much easier, not only for us and along with the citizens.
Okay.
Need a motion?
We do.
I move that we approve the purchase of CopSync from Prologic for not more than $950.
And we should probably include the annual recurring.
That's what I was wondering.
I think we should.
And approve the annual recurring license
Okay.
for 10,
600 a year, yeah.
yeah, 600.
Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Lupino to approve the initial purchase, which includes install for $900 for CopSync, and also approving the annual renewal rate of $600 for the same software. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Alderman Tremblay seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I'm sorry, second part?
Y'all need a contract.
Is there a contract required on that?
Probably, I think.
You're on the back page.
Yes.
There is. That's why I had put to negotiate the contract, because someone's got to sign. It was the second page.
Yeah. Do you have this? Yes.
Well, I was going to pass it by.
Okay.
So I'm finished.
Oh, yeah, just a quote.
Yeah, that says quote. We're actually looking for the contract.
That second page was, the quote.
Quote, yeah.
This is something
Well,
different.
it's got terms and conditions, restrictions,
Yeah, I think it's just an agreement they have to sign.
Yeah, I don't think there is a contract on that.
Oh,
Okay.
because on the third page it asks for signatures.
Yeah, that's
That's just for the payment.
For the purchase. Yeah. Okay. Item D, discuss and or possible action on the purchase of a Panasonic Toughbook laptop. So this is the vehicle terminals that are used by the police officers, Dare County. And this is part of the ILA for the, we approved it already. You access to the database, the National Criminal Database, NCI, whatever it was.
TCIC?
Yes.
TCIC.
So that's what part of this is. This is also for dispatch, correct?
Yes.
Through BCSO. And the cop sync would be on these terminals.
That is correct.
Okay. Bear County, the people that we met with down there, this was their recommendation as well, and I think you had familiarity with that particular unit, so. And the price on here, and you're purchasing these through Toughbook directly? $3,070.04 on these, and we need one or we need two?
Yes, we're going to need two, one for the Expedition and one for the Impala as well.
For the Impala, okay. So that is going to be $6,140.08. So we probably should do a not to exceed. Is there any shipping cost associated with this?
I believe it's free.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't say. Maybe we throw in a little for shipping, add a not to exceed number on there.
Would you use these in your office as
No. They stay tightly secured in the vehicles. They are not removed. And if you do remove them, I think there was a 3 or 4 step verification. And Bear County says, I just suggest you don't take them out. It's not worth it.
To hold it in there, the mounts, the computers will be mounted inside there. So I'll be the only one to have access, but they will not be removed. They're going to be staying in there. So.
Is that an additional cost for the mounts?
Yes, the mounts. I was still working on the mounts. I haven't got a.
But that, again, that could be just like Mr. Roberts mentioned earlier, you have budget for some incidental stuff, so we can work on that. They certainly won't be in this same price range.
No.
So I moved to purchase 2 Panasonic Toughbook CF33PN HAZKM for $6,200, not to exceed $6,200.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to approve the purchase of 2 of the Toughbooks, Panasonic Toughbooks, with the price not to exceed $6,200.
A second.
Alderman Walker has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item E, discuss and or possible purchase, discuss and or possible action on the purchase of additional uniforms. Was there any of the uniforms that were purchased that you could use? Okay. You're a little bit taller than the last guy. So I do understand that we have an issue with uniforms. Can you give us an idea on what we're looking for?
Just 2 more sets, 2 pairs of pants and 2 pairs of shirts.
And do you have a price on those?
I believe the shirts and pants, you're looking about 120, 130 a piece.
130 a piece? And that's the combo for both pieces, or?
For the set?
Yeah, 130 a set.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you need a motion?
We do need a motion.
I moved to purchase 2 uniforms for the city marshal, not to exceed $300. 2 uniform sets.
2 uniform sets, okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to authorize purchase of 2 uniform sets for the city marshal not to exceed $300. Can we get a second on that?
I'll second it.
And that was Alderman Garcia who seconded? No.
Yes.
It was him? Thought I heard you too. Here.
Same time.
Okay, so not to exceed 300. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, item F. Discuss and or possible action on instructing the city administrator or mayor to negotiate a contract with Texas Towing for towing services. So this is another item that was lingering, and Marshall Lopez was able to get in contact with Texas Towing, who has been doing this for a very long time. 26 years in San Antonio and 24 for Bexar County. So, Marshall, I'm going to let you talk about how we would be utilizing towing services and why this is kind of important.
For the police department, it's imperative anytime, let's say there's an accident, and we need to remove that vehicle. Well, obviously it needs to be removed in a timely fashion, concerning citizens and things like that. Also, if we make arrest, the city obviously will not be liable for that vehicle, so it needs to be stored and towed from the location. Other things as well, you know, it just releases the liability instead of leaving the vehicle on the side of the road. Liability, keyword there. Just you know, there's a place for it, where to go, to be stored and to be transported. Like I said, anytime there's an arrest, mainly for that as well. So.
And so the fees that are on here, none of this is incurred by the city. This is incurred by the vehicle owner.
Yes, they, all fees will be accrued by the owner.
Okay.
So there will be no cost to the city whatsoever.
So what happens in the situation where we have an abandoned vehicle within the city? We just would have Texas Towing pick it up, and it's up to them to notify the owner that they have the vehicle in their possession?
If there's a vehicle that's stranded on the side of the road, obviously we're going to give it an opportunity. We're going to give it 48 hours. We're going to red tag it, and after those 48 hours, then it's going to be towed from the location.
Okay. So it's not incumbent upon us to know, or on you, to know who the owner is. I mean, you'll be able to run the tags and figure that out.
And a report will be generated, like I said, liability. We don't want vehicles left on the side of the road,
Right.
causing a traffic hazard or just safety concern.
Right. And then, Ms. Ortiz, you did get a copy of this contract?
Well, it looked like it was just a proposal.
Yeah, we don't have a contract.
Oh, we don't have a contract, it's a proposal.
So, the item was to negotiate a contract based on the proposal.
Okay. I think the other thing that was important in here is this next to the last page. Texas Towing will not charge the City of San Diego's Police Department for towing, jump starts, or tire changes. We would have to provide the spare, of course, for the police vehicles. So by entering into a contract with them, it kind of helps out our police department.
I move to instruct the city mayor or administrator to negotiate a contract with Texas Towing for towing services based on a proposal they submitted.
Based on a proposal, okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Rapino to authorize the city administrator or the mayor to negotiate a contract with Texas Towing for towing services. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Okay, item 8A, discuss or possible action on a resignation letter received from interim city administrator Ken Roberts. He's hiding over there.
Denied.
Denied.
I don't see a letter, so
I have the
I move
letter.
we table this item.
What if we say no, Ken?
Table that again.
Discuss it tomorrow.
I do have the letter. I've been hiding it because I really didn't want to acknowledge it, but the time has come.
Uh-oh, withdraw
Are they
the
hiring
motion.
over there? Are they hiring?
Hey. So I did receive a letter. Mr. Roberts was kind enough to take me to lunch, which I knew something was up when that happens. Do you mind if I read your letter? Okay. And you would think after all this time you know how to spell my name, but...
Term of endearment.
Yes. He says, "It has been my sincere pleasure to serve as your interim city manager. I wish to serve you in the city through August 14th, 2019, which is next week. I am leaving for no other reason than to pursue another opportunity in my chosen profession. I leave knowing I have done my job to the best of my ability and will leave Sandy Oaks better than I found it. I also leave behind lifelong friends and associates." And the reason is the super negotiator that Mr. Roberts is. Somebody called him and offered him a job, and he priced it like he didn't want it, and they accepted it. So it was an opportunity he just could not refuse, and I wish you well. I got your number. I know where you live. I know your wife's first name.
My dog.
Yes, I do.
If I may.
Yes.
I'm going there as an interim.
Oh.
If you don't find somebody between the time I go out there as an interim and you would have me back, it would be my pleasure to come back.
Well, that's good to know. That's a bit of information I didn't have before now.
Well, it's not, I mean, truly, the reason is I'm a whore.
Yes. Hey, wait, we are recording.
I
Don't forget.
managed, yes, ma'am. And I managed to negotiate a price near what I think I'm worth. So.
You are an excellent salesman, by the way.
Thank you.
So, I don't know, we can make a motion to accept his resignation.
Please do.
You don't want to do it? So if we don't accept it, it becomes, he can just walk away.
I'm going to cut you loose. I move to approve Ken Roberts' letter of resignation.
Thank you.
I'll second.
She said first.
Yeah.
So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Walker to accept the resignation letter received from the interim city administrator, Ken Roberts. I'm going to ask all in favor to say aye.
Aye.
Oh, that was so enthusiastic. All opposed? Well, apparently that motion carries, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for all you've done. Very much appreciated. So now, on to the next item. Discuss and or possible action on a resolution approving an agreement with Texas First Group. I'm going to pull this item because we already have a resolution in place working with them, so that's, we don't need...
Well, the most recent resolution specifically has his name. That's why I put that on here, because I read the resolution and it's specifically...
Is it for appointing him, or is it for a, because I thought there was one
I thought there
for
were
search
two.
also.
One is where we brought you in, and the
Before
other
we-
was just working with them.
With Carrie, yes, ma'am.
Double check.
Sorry. So Ken, I'll have a few things for you to do between now and next week. I'll keep you busy.
I understand, yes, ma'am.
Do we have an agreement with this company, or couldn't we check with TML too?
Texas First Group, we had an agreement with them. I think we still do. We're checking just to see if his name was specific on there if we need to.
So that means that we couldn't even check with TML.
TML.
We're city
Well,
administrator.
so the next item, we'll talk about that.
Was that his one?
I thought this one was amending that, but maybe not. No? Oh, wait, there was another one where it was listed to permit to retain like warrants. Or no, that's to retain.
1745.
And it doesn't say anything. This is so we can use that.
I thought that we had one more recent than
Well, that's
2017.
this.
Oh.
No, turn it around.
Oh, this is the one that we did back in November.
Approves the agreement and retains.
Oh, okay. So we just need to
Because I saw
amend,
that, I just
we just
thought-
need to amend this one.
I don't know, unless you said 45 can take it, 20 can work off of 45.
We had the initial 2017-45.
That's one I thought too. I think 2017-45 hasn't expired.
Has not? Okay.
Because that authorized them to search for an administrator, and then Ken was
And then-
retained, and then that was the
I
updated
just put on there in
resolution.
case because I saw.
Okay, so we can pull this one from the agenda. then.
Yeah, unless council wants to change the firm.
No, I think for what we're looking for, I think that works well. So we'll go ahead and pull item 8B. And that leaves item 8C, discuss under possible action on position for city administrator and posting an advertisement for the job position. So in addition to working with Texas First Group, I would also like to suggest that we post it on the TML site. I don't know, Ken, are there any other professional organizations? Oh, I do know one, the university. Is that-
Dr. Bell.
Yes.
I already made contact with him and he's looking.
Perfect. So we have multiple options available to find a replacement. What I would like to do is also propose as part of this, as while we are looking for Ken's replacement, that the employees that are working directly under Ken at this time, that they report to me for now until we get a replacement in place. So for this one, there's two things. One is, I've asked Ken to write the job description. So he has that, he's working on that. And then it's just a matter of where we want to post that. So TML would be one location. What's the name of that school? South Texas State? No, what is it?
It used to be.
Oh,
Now it's,
Texas State?
no, that's what it used to be. It's Southwest.
it is Southwest Texas State. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff Whitworth.
And what was the gentleman's name there that you had?
Alan Hoff. I have his number.
Thank you, okay. And then, of course, I've made a few phone calls to some other people that I know in other municipalities. One in particular, they had just hired an assistant city manager, so I'm working with them on if they had any candidates from those interviews that perhaps they would recommend, but maybe send our way. Do we want to publish it in San Antonio Express News, or, I mean, is there any other place now?
That's an awful lot of money.
It is an awful lot of money.
That much result.
Yeah. Okay. So we would have Texas First Group, TML, and then working with the school.
And TCMA, the City Management Association, Region 8, they'll put it out as well.
Okay, Region 8. You have a contact for them? Okay. And we would want to run that ad. I know 30 days is typical. I just don't know that I can wait 30 days. Is that usual and customary to go 30 days?
Honestly, you put it out there for 2 weeks, you should have an abundance of applicants. Now, when I say applicants, they may be guys that just graduated from Jiffy Lube School. But in and of that group, you ought to be able to find somebody that you could try before you buy.
So if we did it with a, run it for 2 weeks with an option to extend that another 2 weeks if necessary?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I would recommend that you only take the applications online.
That we what?
Only take them
Only
online?
take applications online.
And so if we're working with TML, of course, they're there. TCMA
Yes, ma'am.
is online?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then what about, what happens in a well, so the instructor, professor you're talking about, he could refer them to either of those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And if we put it on our website with a link to an
either one of them?
application, and then tell them to fill out the application and submit a resume. Now, Dr. Banaloff will give you most likely MPA graduates or those that are, you know, may only like writing their thesis to get that. And what they might be short on experience in management, they have experience either in San Marcos or some other municipality around there. And a lot of people be looking to get their foot in the door to try this crazy.
Do we want to advertise for full-time or part-time? Right now, Mr. Roberts has been part-time, and I think that's worked out well. From a cost perspective, it's actually worked out well, but he also has a lot of experience and knowledge that...
Part-time serves you better because they're easier to get rid of if you don't like them. And you don't have to give them a contract for employment. And all of those contracts for employment are going to include a parachute in them that, you know, say they finish 60 days, then they can ask for the moon in that parachute. And it's just a contractual nightmare this city does not need.
Okay, that's good info. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, sounds good.
So the advertising for 2 weeks with an option to extend an additional 2, working with posting at TML, TCMA Region 8. We don't necessarily need to post in the paper. I don't think you're going to get the candidates you're looking for there.
No, he recommended.
Yeah.
No papers.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion on that? Don't everybody jump up at once.
I'll make a motion. Let me turn on my microphone. I'll make a motion that we advertise for an interim city manager, or city administrator position. TML,
TCMA.
Texas, I get the name right, Texas First.
Well, that was the previous one. We're still going to work to try to find an interim through Texas First.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But that was the
yeah.
previous action.
If I may, TML, TCMA, Texas State University.
Yeah, TCMA.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
In Texas State University.
Yes, sir.
For a part-time position.
Just for an interim part-time position for city administrator.
So we have a motion from Alderman Thomasini to post an ad for an interim part-time city administrator through TML, Texas City Manager Association, Region 8, and to run the ad for 2 weeks with an option for an additional 2 weeks. Can I get a second on that, please?
I'll second it.
I'll give that one to Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I think there was one last bit on here that we need a motion on, which is the employees who are currently reporting directly to the city administrator. The recommendation from Ken is that those report to me on an interim basis until we get that position filled. So we would need a motion on that as well.
Move to approve motion that current city employees reporting to the city administrator will report to the mayor until the city administrator position is
Is
filled.
filled.
I'll second.
So we have a motion from Alderman Tremblay and a second from Alderman Rapino to have the employees reporting to the current city administrator to report to the mayor on an interim basis till the position is filled. May I get, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Sustain,
You mean abstain?
abstain, abstain.
We knew what you meant.
Yeah, you know what I meant.
Okay.
It's full of energy tonight.
So that motion carries. And we are going to adjourn the meeting at 9:06 PM.
Anybody make the motion to adjourn? Anybody make the motion to adjourn?
That's why we were having to choose. Has the ordinance last one? Where did it go?
Oh, it's right here. This one? Signed by everyone? This one, yes.